Welcome to AF Tales. Today's story is about a man who refused to buy a $25,000 engagement ring, and his girlfriend tried to punish him for it. As you listen, ask yourself what you would do if love started feeling like a business deal. My girlfriend said, "You're so cheap." I replied, "Then you can't afford me." Then I walked out, cut contact, pulled receipts, and watched as she filed a report at my job and sent me an invoice for loving her, right before court flipped the script. My name is Noah. I'm 29 and I work as an IT systems administrator in Columbus, Ohio. I'm not flashy, but I'm stable. I own my house outright because I spent 5 years living below my means and paying off the mortgage early. I drive a 2019 Toyota Camry that runs perfectly. I have zero debt and a solid retirement account. My dad, Hank, was an auto mechanic. He worked hard his whole life, and he taught me one lesson over and over: financial stability matters more than looking rich. Sloane and I had been together for 2 years. She's 27 and calls herself a brand stylist. In real life, that meant she had about 14,000 Instagram followers and sometimes got paid to post photos in certain outfits or at certain restaurants. Her parents are genuinely wealthy. Her mom, Deanne, plans high-end corporate events. Her dad, Victor, is a business consultant who talks like every conversation is a networking pitch. They had always funded Sloane's lifestyle, and I didn't fully understand that until everything blew up. When we started dating, I liked how different she was from me. I meal prep every Sunday. I keep spreadsheets for household expenses. Sloane would show up with concert tickets she bought on impulse, or suggest a last-minute road trip to try some restaurant she saw online. It felt like balance. I thought she brought color to my structured life, and I brought stability to hers. Looking back, the warning signs were there. I just explained them away. She'd pick up something at my house and say it was cute in a vintage way. At first I thought it was a compliment. Later I realized she meant it looked cheap. She started asking why I didn't upgrade my couch or get a nicer car when I could clearly afford better. When I explained that being debt-free and investing mattered more to me than appearances, she'd smile and say I was so responsible. But the tone was off, like she was praising a child for doing homework. This was the first red flag I ignored. When someone talks down to your values, they are not trying to understand you. They are trying to train you. The engagement ring topic started about 6 months before everything ended. We were at her friend's wedding, a huge outdoor ceremony with hundreds of guests. During the reception, Sloane pointed out the bride's ring and said it was gorgeous, maybe 3 carats, classic and elegant. I joked that the stone probably cost as much as a semester of college tuition. Sloane laughed, then got serious. She said a quality engagement ring is an investment piece and that 3 carats was just right. After that, she started sending me ring photos: Tiffany solitaires, platinum settings, big diamonds. The prices were usually in the $20,000 to $30,000 range, and every time she'd add something like, "This is so timeless," or "This would photograph beautifully." Photograph. That word stuck with me. I showed the messages to my sister, Ava. She's a high school counselor and she has great instincts for manipulation. She scrolled through the texts and said, "She's testing you. Don't fail the test by buying one." I even talked to my dad. He looked at the pictures on my phone and shook his head. "Son," he said, "a $25,000 ring won't make her faithful or happy. It will just set a precedent you can't maintain. If she needs that much proof you love her, she doesn't love you the way you need." Still, I wanted to believe there was a reasonable explanation. Maybe Sloane just had expensive taste from growing up wealthy and didn't realize how extreme it sounded. I thought if I explained my money philosophy calmly, we could compromise. Then came dinner at her parents' house. Their home was a massive colonial in an expensive suburb. The kind of place that feels like a museum but somehow still looks lived in by rich people. Over dinner, Deanne asked me, point blank, if we discussed engagement rings and whether I had a plan for the purchase. Before I could answer, Victor jumped in. He started explaining that a man's ring's engagement ring choice is a critical investment in how he's perceived socially and professionally. He said the ring makes a statement about values and commitment to excellence. I felt like I was being interviewed for a job I didn't apply for. I tried to keep it light. I said I valued Sloane for who she was as a person, not for how many carats ended up on her finger. Sloane went red and said I was embarrassing her in front of her parents. Deanne gave a tight smile and changed the subject, but the rest of the meal was cold and awkward. That night, Sloane texted me something that hit harder than I expected. She said my family didn't understand what real success looked like, and she couldn't live in my small, safe world forever. I stared at that message for a long time. Small, safe world. I owned my house at 29. I had job security. I had financial independence. I wasn't rich, but I was stable, which is more than many people can say. I thought that mattered. A week later, Sloane said she wanted to look at rings in person just for fun. No pressure. Just seeing what was out there. I agreed, thinking that maybe seeing the prices face to face would make her rethink things. We went to a high-end boutique downtown. Everything sparkled under perfect lighting. The sales associate greeted us like we were celebrities. Sloane walked straight to a specific display case like she'd already studied it. She pointed at a platinum solitaire with a massive stone. "This is it," she said. "This is the one." The jeweler placed it on a velvet pad between us and said, $24,500. He listed cut and clarity and things I didn't care about. I looked at Sloane and said as calmly as I could that I couldn't do it. Not at that price. Not when it went against everything I worked for. She stared at me for a long moment, then said loudly, so the jeweler and other customers could hear, "You are so cheap, just ridiculously cheap." I kept my voice quiet. "If love costs $25,000 up front," I said, "then you can't afford me either." Then I walked out. I sat in my car shaking, feeling anger, relief, and sadness all at the same time. I went home and did something I'd never done before. I posted the story on Reddit. I asked if I was out of my mind for refusing to buy a ring that cost more than my car. The responses came fast. Hundreds of people said I dodged a bullet. They said real love doesn't come with a price tag. Reading it felt like waking up from a fog I didn't know I was in. Sloane texted the next morning. "We need to have a serious conversation about your deep insecurity around money and success." I didn't respond. She called twice. I let it go to voicemail. Then she sent a long message about how she had invested years of her life into our relationship and deserved to be valued properly. That word, invested, stuck in my head. Like I was a stock she bought and expected returns from. At that point, I was ready to walk away clean. I figured she'd post some dramatic breakup content and move on. Then my job got involved. I was called into a meeting with my direct supervisor and HR. Someone had sent an anonymous email to the ethics hotline claiming I was using work servers and company time to mine cryptocurrency. It was a serious accusation. IT did a forensic audit of my work computer, my login history, and my network activity. It took 3 full days. I was placed on administrative leave. I sat at home thinking my entire career could implode because of a lie. Let's be honest, this is where fear gets real. When someone can threaten your reputation with one anonymous message, you realize how fragile normal life can be. The audit came back clean. HR apologized and gave me a written statement confirming there was no misconduct. They said they were trying to trace the email, but it was sent through a service designed to hide the sender's identity. I couldn't prove it was Sloane, but I knew. Then, 1 week after the HR nightmare, I got an email from Sloane's personal account. There was a spreadsheet attached. Sloane had calculated every outfit she bought to wear to dinners with my family, gas money to drive to my house, hair and makeup appointments before events, and the value of birthday and holiday gifts. She totaled it all up, $39.80. She was formally requesting reimbursement because the relationship did not result in the long-term commitment she had been investing financial resources toward achieving. I stared at my screen in disbelief. It felt like I was reading an invoice for dating her. And something finally clicked. This was never about the ring. The ring was just the trigger. Sloane genuinely saw relationships as transactions. Love was a ledger. She had been keeping score the entire time, and I didn't even know we were playing that game. I forwarded the email to my sister. Ava called within 5 minutes and told me, in her serious counselor voice, not to respond emotionally and to document everything. She told me to talk to a lawyer, even if it felt dramatic, because these situations escalate. I didn't want to believe her, but my gut told me she was right. So I hired a local attorney to write a cease and desist letter warning Sloane against defamation. It cost me about $300. The letter referenced the false HR report I suspected she filed. I thought that would end it. 2 weeks later, I got alerts from Experian and TransUnion. Someone tried to open jewelry store financing in my name. The application had my address, my social security number, and an email that included Sloane's full name. That wasn't just petty. That was fraud. I filed fraud alerts with the credit bureaus and submitted an FTC report. I sent everything to my lawyer. Around the same time, Sloane's Instagram started acting strange. After our breakup, her engagement went up at first. People love drama. She posted vague victim stories and got attention. Then her followers started noticing inconsistencies. One comment said something like, "Wait, didn't you say you broke up because he was broke? Why are you trying to finance a ring?" Another person asked why she was financing anything if she came from money. The comments turned. One brand partner quietly ended their arrangement. Sloane deleted posts and went silent. A mutual friend, Maya, reached out and warned me that Sloane was spiraling and bragging she would teach me a lesson. Maya said the credit fraud was supposed to be just the start. So I started documenting everything on Reddit without using Sloane's name. I explained the identity theft attempt, the HR accusation, and the invoice. People were outraged because I gave details and a clear timeline. Some of Sloane's followers started connecting the dots. Her second brand partnership dropped her, citing concerns about public disputes. Sloane went private and started blocking comments. Then she tried something else. I got served. Sloane filed a small claims lawsuit for $39.80, claiming relationship expenses were an investment toward an engagement I promised. My lawyer laughed. He said it was legally baseless, but we still had to respond. We prepared documentation. The invoice email, the timeline, the HR report, the FTC filing, screenshots. The court date was 6 weeks out. I tried to live my life. I upgraded home security after Maya said Sloane had made vague threats. I kept working. I kept my head down. 3 days before court, I got an email from Victor, Sloane's father. The subject line was apology. He said he had learned about Sloane's actions, including the fraud. He said they discovered Sloane used Deanne's credit card to place an $8,000 deposit on a custom ring at the same boutique, planning to surprise me and prove she could buy her own ring. Victor said he had pushed Sloane her whole life to view everything as transactions, and he realized he helped create this mindset. I didn't respond. Court day arrived. Sloane showed up dressed like a photo shoot. Perfect hair, perfect makeup, outfit that looked expensive and intentional, like she was trying to look like the victim and the prize at the same time. The judge asked her to explain her claim. Sloane gave a speech about relationships requiring investment. She said she supported me emotionally and financially. She said I led her to believe we were getting engaged. The judge asked if she had any written agreement. No. The judge asked if I explicitly promised marriage. Sloane hesitated and said we talked about the future, which obviously meant marriage. Then it was my turn. I presented the email where Sloane demanded reimbursement only after I refused the ring. I laid out the timeline of harassment, including the HR report and the identity theft attempt. I explained that relationship expenses are gifts freely given, not loans. The judge looked at Sloane and said, "Relationship expenses are not recoverable under contract law. Gifts during relationships do not create debt." Even if they did, your conduct demonstrates bad faith. Case dismissed. The judge warned Sloan that frivolous lawsuits waste resources and could lead to sanctions. Sloan grabbed her bag and walked out. I felt vindicated and exhausted. I thought it was finally over. It wasn't. 2 days after court, Maya called, anxious. Sloan was posting cryptic stories, but now they weren't vague victim posts. They felt like threats, things like, "Don't think you can humiliate me publicly and face no consequences. Check back in 30 days. I told myself I was done giving her power over my mental space. I asked what else could she do. Then Deanne, Sloan's mom, called me. I almost didn't answer. Deanne sounded tired and embarrassed. She said she needed to warn me. Sloan was planning to file a restraining order claiming I harassed her online and threatened her business. It was a lie, and Deanne said she couldn't watch her daughter destroy someone else. Deanne explained that after court, she and Victor cut off Sloan financially until she agreed to therapy. Sloan responded by moving out and plotting her next move. The restraining order plan was calculated. Sloan would claim my Reddit posts were targeted harassment because people figured out they were about her. She would say, I encouraged online attacks. She would claim lost brand partnerships as damages. Deanne asked if I would accept a written apology and a signed agreement that Sloan would stop if I agreed not to pursue legal action for identity theft. I called my attorney. He told me a restraining order filing could become public record and damage my reputation, even if it got dismissed. He recommended we file our own no-contact order first, based on documented harassment, fraud, and Deanne's warning about Sloan's planned false claims. So we filed. I wrote a detailed timeline of everything. It was humiliating, but also clarifying. Seeing it all in order made me realize how much energy she spent trying to punish me for not buying a ring. The hearing was scheduled for 2 weeks later. Sloan had to be served, which meant she'd know I moved first. I expected anger. Instead, I got silence. Sloan went dark. No Instagram posts. No stories. Maya said Sloan moved back in with her parents, who agreed to pay for her lawyer only if she met conditions. Therapy 3 times a week and 0 contact with anyone involved. The hearing itself was anticlimactic. Sloan didn't show. Her lawyer said his client would agree to mutual no contact without admitting wrongdoing. My lawyer said that was fine as long as it was documented that I filed first, and she was agreeing to my terms. The judge approved a 1-year no contact order. Sloan couldn't contact me, show up at my home or workplace, or post about me. I had the same restrictions, which was fine. Walking out of court, I felt lighter than I had in months. My sister met me for lunch and we laughed at how absurd it all was. Ava said she'd never seen someone self-destruct so thoroughly over not getting their way, and that's when I thought the story was done. 2 weeks later, I got a LinkedIn message from a woman named Rebecca. Rebecca said she had been engaged to Victor, Sloan's father, 25 years ago. They broke up when Victor called off the wedding because Rebecca refused a prenup that would have left her with nothing if they divorced. Rebecca said she followed my Reddit posts because my situation sounded familiar. She wasn't excusing Sloan. She just wanted me to understand the context. She said Victor had always been calculating and transactional in relationships. She said Deanne accepted Victor's terms because she grew up poor and was willing to accept a business partnership instead of real love. Rebecca also warned me about a pattern. Victor apparently reaches out to his daughter's exes after breakups to apologize and present himself as reasonable without actually changing. I didn't know what to do with that information. Mostly it made me sad. Sloan wasn't born seeing love as a transaction. She was taught that way. She was taught that worth can be measured in carats and followers, and that relationships have price tags. That didn't excuse what she did, but it made it make sense. I thanked Rebecca and closed LinkedIn. I wanted to move forward. 5 months have passed since the no-contact order. Sloan's Instagram still exists, but she hasn't posted in 4 months. Her followers dropped from about 14,000 to 9,000. Brand partnerships never came back. Maya heard Sloan took a full-time job doing social media for a real estate agency. It pays bills, but it's not the influencer lifestyle she wanted. Her parents are still married. Rebecca told me Deanne started therapy on her own. Victor doubled down and now gives lectures about protecting assets in relationships. Some people never change. The $8,000 ring deposit was refunded after Sloan canceled the order, but Deanne made Sloan reimburse her through a payment plan. Victor sent one last email about 6 weeks ago saying he hoped I was well and that his daughter was learning accountability. I didn't respond. As for me, I got promoted 3 months ago. My boss said how I handled the false harassment claim showed calm professionalism they want in leadership. Our security team even used my case as a training example about protecting yourself from false accusations. In a weird way, Sloan's attempt to ruin me ended up strengthening my position at work. I also started volunteering on Saturday mornings at a youth STEM program. Helping teenagers learn coding reminds me why I got into this field. Not money, not status, just solving problems and building something useful. My house is still furnished with my cheap couch and discount coffee table. My Camry still runs great. I'm still debt-free. None of that changed. What changed is I don't feel defensive about it anymore. I know what my life is worth, even if it doesn't photograph like a luxury brand ad. Last week, my dad came over for dinner. Before he left, he handed me something wrapped in an old handkerchief. Inside was my late mother's sapphire ring. A simple silver band with a small blue stone. My mom died when I was 15. The ring is probably worth around $800 if you sold it, which we never would. Dad said, if you ever find someone who understands what actually matters, this ring carries more love than any diamond ever could. I haven't started dating again. I'm not rushed, but I joined a hiking group that meets on Sundays. Last week, on a trail outside the city, a woman named Kate told a story about her ex who tried to propose with his grandmother's ring, and she said no because she wanted something new and expensive. She was telling it like it was funny, like she used to be that person. I said, "Sounds like you learned something important." She smiled and said, "Yeah, I learned the difference between value and price." We spent the next few miles talking about everything except relationships. Maybe something will come of it, maybe not. Either way, I'm okay. Because I learned something too. Love isn't a receipt, it isn't an invoice. And it definitely isn't a test where the only passing grade is expensive enough. Lesson 1. If someone measures love by what you buy, they will never be satisfied because it was never about the item. Lesson 2. Gifts in a relationship are not debts. If someone starts tracking you like a spreadsheet, they are not building a partnership. Lesson 3. When someone loses control, they may try to destroy your reputation. Document everything and protect yourself early. Lesson 4. Family patterns matter. If someone was raised to treat love like a transaction, they may repeat that lesson until they choose to unlearn it. Lesson 5. A simple life can still be a strong life. Stability is not small. It's rare. What would you have done if your partner demanded a ring that cost $25,000 and called you cheap for saying no? And if you were Noah, after the fraud and the harassment, would you ever accept an apology, or would you keep your peace and keep walking forward?